Canon's back in the Yodobashi top 10 with 4 camera models after being shut out for over 4 weeks. But don't worry, Sony fans, Sony still dominates the top 10, but there's room for one more manufacturer. Is it a Nikon? Is it a Panasonic? Or could it be a Pentax? Details coming up, but first, please do me a favor. Follow me on Twitter, subscribe, choose all notifications, like, comment, and all that good stuff, as it really helps this channel grow. I love covering the Yodobashi top 10. Yodobashi is a large Japanese retailer that regularly reports their sales data. They do so every 2 weeks. They're one of the few retailers to do so, so I give them regular coverage. I find it's good conversation for a slow, relaxing Sunday. It's not a reflection of the entire Japanese market, nor is it meant to be a reflection of the entire world, but it gives us a moving average in Japan of their largest retailer, and it gives us something fun to talk about on a lazy Sunday. I say this because when I published this video a couple of months ago, it blew up. I got over 62,000 views, and I was surprised by the response. People were taking it as, how could this happen? Or, yes, Canon deserves this, they're finally going down, and it was quite interesting. You see, I've been covering Yodobashi and their camera sales, their top 10 for, well, the better part of 2 years. And I started doing so because, well, Sunday there was usually no information. It's the first day of the week, and I thought, what a great way to start off the week with something to talk about on a lazy Sunday, on a warm summer's day, or if you're trapped inside on the coldest day of winter. So let's have fun with the top 10. Let's not get too excited. Let's not get too upset. This is fun after all. It's Sunday, and you might not actually be watching this on a Sunday because CP Plus is coming up. It's coming up in a couple of weeks, so we're already starting to get rumors of cameras like the Canon EOS R8, a new Sony camera coming, and things are going to get even more busy. And this type of video is just going to get lost in the works. So it might be showing up late Sunday, it might be showing up Monday, Tuesday, it might even show up after the R8 has been announced. But now, without further ado, let's get to the top 10. In first place, we have the Sony a7 IV. It shouldn't be any surprise that this camera's in the #1 spot. It's been in the #1 spot at Yodobashi for many times since this camera started shipping in December of 2021. Now, in second place, I'm not going to mention that. I'm going to skip right to third. We're going to cover off all the Sony cameras, and then we're going to get to Canon, Nikon, Pentax, Sony, well, whoever else. Did I say Sony again? Sony's on the brain. We're going to get to all the other cameras. So in third place, we have a camera that was recently announced, and that's the Sony a7R5, solidly in third place. But in fourth place, we once again have the Sony a7 IV, but this time in kit form. Really top-selling camera. It's really hard to keep this camera down. As long as Sony can keep moving these, as long as Sony can keep producing these so they can keep moving these, I don't see it disappearing from the top 10 anytime soon. Although I wonder, what do you think? Based on the rumored specifications for the Canon EOS R8, if those are accurate, what do you think? $1,400 and does 4K 60 oversample 4K, Canon log 3, does 40 frames per second for $1,000 less than the Sony a7 IV? Let me know what you think in the comments section down below. We have to go all the way down to 8th place before we get the next Sony, and that's the Sony FX3. It's a video-centric version of the a7S III. The a7S III came out in 2020, in August of 2020, and then the FX3 followed thereafter. It's a really terrific camera. It has the exact same specifications as the a7S III, but it's more video-centric, and while they call it a cinema camera, yeah, it doesn't have a lot of the cinema capabilities, such as built-in NDs, but it's a solid camera, as is the FX30, which, spoilers, it's not in the top 10. In 9th place, we have our 5th and last Sony, and that's the vlogging camera, the ZV-E10. I really do like this camera. I like the original camera, the ZV-1. Is it the ZV-1? ZV-1. Yeah, I'm getting it mixed up with the 1F, and we're not going to talk about the 1F because it's an absolutely terrible camera, but the ZV-E10 is a really good bargain. It's a very good vlogging camera. I like what Sony does with their autofocus system and their exposure system. So whenever you've got the focus system locked onto a person, it's also going to expose for that person. So when you're moving from darkness to light or bright areas such as full sun to shady areas, you're not going to have your exposure blown out for the person. I think it's just a really, really terrific camera. Now let's fill in some of those spots with Canon cameras. In second place, we have, can you guess which camera it is? No, it's not the Canon EOS R5 or the R6. It's actually a recent announcement that came out in November, and that's the Canon EOS R6 Mark II. A terrific camera. It solves a lot of the video issues with the Mark I, giving us 4K up to 60 frames per second, giving us 6K oversample 4K at up to 60 frames per second. It's just a really incredible camera, and it actually gives us false colors, if you can believe that from a Canon. We get false colors. So yeah, a very good camera. It does up to 40 frames per second. It's just an absolute solid camera. Now for the second camera in the lineup, the second Canon camera, and that's the Canon EOS R3, showing up in 6th place. this has got to be the most expensive camera that we have in our top 10 this week, selling for $59.99, a camera that still kind of confuses me because I see the Canon EOS R1 as the true flagship camera to replace the 1DX Mark III. And here we have the R3 coming in kind of like a usurper. If you follow WWE or pro wrestling, it's kind of like the young Rock when he's coming up and he's playing the bad guy, the spoiler. The R3 to me is that spoiler, trying to take away from the 1DX Mark III, and it does. But where's the R1? And what is the R1 going to cost? And that's our second Canon in the lineup. Our third Canon in the lineup is the Canon EOS R10 in kit form with the RFS 18-150 image stabilized STM lens. The R10 at $979, or it's been on sale for the past couple of months. I don't know if it's still on sale today. I know the sale is coming off shortly, but $879 for this camera. It does 6K over sample 4K. And yes, it doesn't do 10-bit, but for the ordinary average filmmaker, for somebody who's a family member, this is a terrific camera. And as far as shooting stills, up to 30 frames per second. And yes, you can't hold down the shutter button for very long, but if you're doing water skiing or other family events where people are moving fast, you want to catch the shots, holding down that shutter button for a third of a second or half a second, which is really all you want to do, trust me, you don't want to be out there holding down that shutter button for seconds at a time. I have the Canon EOS R5, it only does 20 frames per second, but I can go for, well, I've gone as long as 20 seconds. But when you end up going back to the house, to the studio, with thousands of images, you're not going to hold down that shutter button for more than half or a third of a second anytime soon, or again. But just, yeah, it's a truly incredible camera. Not surprising that this camera shows up in the top 10. But where's the Canon EOS R7? Well, as we round out the fourth camera in the top 10, it's not the Canon EOS R7. It's once again the Canon EOS R6 Mark II, but in kit form with the 24-105 image stabilized STM lens. That's the one with a variable aperture instead of the fixed f4. For anybody doubting how well the R6 Mark II would be accepted, it looks like it's selling very, very well in Japan, where, well, the prices have gone up some 26 to 30% over the Mark I, whereas in the United States, the price of the Canon EOS R6 Mark II hasn't gone up a cent. So I imagine the numbers in the United States are so much better than what we're seeing out of Japan. Now we have one spot left in the top 10. Is it a Pentax camera? Wouldn't that surprise you if a Pentax camera managed to show up in the top 10? Remember, we had an announcement that they were coming out with two different camera shells, two skins for the camera, the Pentax. Yeah, they're not showing up in the number 5 spot. No, it's not them. But what about Panasonic? Have we gotten enough sales from Panasonic with the S5 Mark II to show up in the 5th spot? Nope, that was a bit of a teaser. I'll admit, a bit of a teaser in the intro. What we have in the 5th spot, yes, I know Nikon users, you've got this. It is the Nikon Z9, a camera that was announced back in, October the 28th, 27th of 2021, a camera that's been selling very well. Well, it's been selling very well as long as Nikon's been able to get enough of them to the market. Whenever they've been shipping them, well, camera retailers have been selling them, so the Nikon Z9 has been doing very well, but no Nikon Z6 Mark II, Nikon Z7 Mark II. I think what's happening is a lot of people that are buying Nikon, they're waiting for a refresh. They're really looking forward to seeing what the Nikon Z8 will do, and they're also looking at what the Nikon Z6 and Z7 Mark III will do. So these are rumored to be coming out in the first half of 2023, so we'll just have to wait and see. So that's that. That brings us to the end of another top 10, covering the last 2 weeks of Yodobashi sales in Japan. However, as we start to cover February, I wouldn't be surprised to see Panasonic in there with the S5 Mark II. No, I'm not laughing at Panasonic. I'm laughing at my poor attempt to enunciate my words properly. Now, normally I can speak quite well, but there's something about being in front of a camera, talking to a lens, and yes, I'm talking directly to you, but as I'm filming this, it's the lens that I'm looking at, and somehow, for some reason, I just can't enunciate clearly sometimes, and enunciating clearly is something very important to me. I do teach ESL as a part-time job, yes, in addition to doing YouTube as a part-time job, so enunciating is something that is very, very important. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't get too caught up in the numbers. If you love Canon, great. If you love Sony, great. If you love Panasonic or even Pentax, great. All these are just a series of numbers, of data points coming from a single large Japanese retailer in Japan. And I like covering this because usually for a Sunday conversation, it's pretty light conversation. It's something for us to talk about when there normally wouldn't be a video, and I'm always putting videos out there, and especially in slow times like January or the middle of summer, sometimes this is the only video I put out in a given week. But things are going to get very busy. Things have already started to get busy. The Canon EOS R8, a new Sony camera coming, and as we get closer to CP+, which is coming up in just a couple of weeks, well, we're going to get many more announcements of cameras, many more teasings, many more rumors, and even Numbers. So I'm really getting excited. I'm looking forward to this. I've shifted my daily working hours. I now get up around 6 o'clock in the morning and try to go to bed around 9 o'clock at night. So I'm able to get up early, and that gives me enough time to be able to shoot 1 or 2 videos and at least get one of them out before 8 o'clock in the morning before I start my day job. And then, of course, I've got time to shoot during my lunch or after work, because between now and the end of the month, I don't know if I'm going to have much time to get any sleep if I don't adjust my hours. And this is what I've done. This is a bit of a behind the scenes, and this is what I'm doing to sort of deal with the kind of burnout I felt last year, because I didn't change my hours, but I was trying to cover more. I'd get up in the middle of the night. Well, if I change my working hours, I go to bed early and I wake up early. Well, that allows me to get a whole lot done before work. And then when work starts, I've completely put this out of my mind, and I'm able to focus on other things. And of course, you've got your cup of coffee, your cup of tea. You're able to relax and enjoy the news. And I want to say thank you very much for watching. But if you want to stay up to date on all the latest camera gear and news, rumors, and Numbers, then make sure you hit that subscribe button, but also choose all notifications. So that way, as soon as I publish a new video like this one here, well, you'll be able to stay up to date on all the latest camera gear, news, and rumors, or Numbers. And if you want to purchase anything I talked about in this video, please consider using my affiliate links here in the United States or there in the United States for B&H and Amazon.com, because I get 1 to 2% back, and that really does, it matters an awful lot in supporting the channel. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter, because Twitter's where I cover all the minor news and rumors as well as the major news and rumors. I only have enough time to usually do 2 or 3 videos a day at max, and sometimes news stories will come out about a new lens or something else. It's not enough to put out a separate video, but it's more than enough to cover on Twitter, because Twitter doesn't care if I do more than 2 or 3 announcements or tweets a day. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.